In this video, let us look at RPA implementation. What are the general consideration factors to implement RPA in companies? First thing is you need to pick a vendor. What is the right tool or platform? And then implement that platform. And once you have the platform or application, RPA application, then you need to pick the right process to automate. And the process picking is not easy because you need to work with the business in a close alignment. And then automate that process, maybe validate as a pilot. And if everything is good, scale up the automation. Yeah, it sounds like a simple 5 steps, but there can be a lot of complications. But for the scope of this course or this section, where we're just trying to understand what are the general steps and consideration factors in implementing RPA. So if you haven't heard about these two companies, it is good that you're seeing here, Gartner and Forrester. These are the top two research organizations, and they release papers every year on multiple areas. One of the area is the vendors. For multiple softwares, they rate the vendors in these categories. For example, Gartner on the right side puts the vendors in who are the leaders, who are the visionaries, niche players, or challengers. And similarly, Forrester does it is who's stronger leader and performer and contenders. So what is the one thing common here is who are the leaders? Both have UiPath and Automation Anywhere are the two top vendors in the RPA industry. If you want to learn more about RPAs, it's maybe better to start with looking at the UiPath website or Automation Anywhere website and read about their white papers. And Microsoft is growing now. They have a very good Power Automate platform with a lot more AI capabilities from Azure Cloud and so. And there are a lot of other vendors also coming into this picture. Okay, so you need to pick up a vendor. When you're picking a vendor, you may have to see not only by this research ratings, you may have to consider about who is your strategic vendor, what technology they're using. Can those technologies be integrated with the current landscape of the company? And what is the total cost of ownership of this application, and what kind of support you're going to get it, and are there any security restrictions or concerns by going through this thing. So there are a lot of other areas to be considered before picking the vendor, but in general this gives you a sense that companies have to pick a vendor first. And then the next thing is you pick a process because you want to start, you cannot start with, okay, I want to change a company overnight by implementing 10, 20 processes automation. So you may have to pick one or two to start with. When you look at a process, generally we think it is a simple straight line, like having step one to step two, three, and four, five, and boom, it's done. But in reality, it may not be a simple straight line. It can have a lot of variations depending on from where it is coming, who's doing it, what kind of requirements are there, and what systems are used, and who's performing. So there can be a lot of variations in that. So the process have to be selected, and then you need to analyze, is this process right for automation? So one way is maybe you need to look at a process flow first. You need to visualize the process flow. I have seen process mining tools used to visualize entire process almost like a real time to understand how many paths are taken from point A to point B. Even though you're thinking it's just only two, three paths, maybe there are 100 variations. So by visualizing, you will see what are the areas which can be improved. So you need to analyze the process. Is it the right process to automate? What are the dependencies? Once you pick the process, you need to optimize it, like standardize and optimize the process, because you don't want to automate a process which doesn't used in multiple places or the right ways. If every division in the company is using differently, may not help. So you need to have a maybe standardization of the process by eliminating unnecessary steps and optimized. And now is the time for automation. So you pick the right process, you standardize it across the division or company. Now you have to go through the automation using RPA. So in RPA development cycle, you have to figure out the process and then you design the solution, technical design, and what is it required to implement this, and then implementation. In implementation, you have to develop some scripts and then test and go live. In developing scripts, this is interesting because every tool may have a different approach. There are some tools, they can just look at a screen of a user and it records the flow of steps. If I'm doing a job of logging into one system and then clicking a transaction and entering the data and then downloading something and going to another application, doing something there. So these development part of the step is just to record the user activities and then change the scripts so that they can be automated. So there will be involvement from the subject matter expert, and there is involvement from maybe automation developers or engineers to develop this. And then has to be testing. If you don't test, then we don't know what other issues are going to happen. So then there is a good amount of testing is involved. And then go live. Once go live, it's not done there. Needs to track, are there expected benefits? Are there any incidents, any exceptions happening? If exception happens, who's going to be responsible to track them and resolve them? So a lot of those considerations. Just to show you a couple of studios, UiPath Studio, you can see here, it has this menu on the left side, options to choose applications and the tools. On the right side, you see the properties. In the center, you're creating the flow of maybe a screen element of, okay, you got to click this and enter this form and then click that. So this you're capturing, and there can be layers for each of the step where you can add scripting or input some more parameters and then automate it. And this is another screen from Automation Anywhere Studio. Yes, this screen is showing you just a flow of list of activities, and there can be another layer to edit the script for each of the steps. So the challenges of implementation of RPA is having unrealistic expectations. It is not a plug and play. It is a technology of implementing in the company, and it requires certain kind of skills to implement it and use it. And also there has to be a strong alignment in terms of a business who are subject matter experts of the domain and processes, and then IT who's going to automate that. If there is a miscommunication or misalignment, then the success won't be easier there. And then testing is required as well. We just spoke about testing. And then choosing the wrong process. If you choose the wrong process, which are not standardized, then oh, there's a two times standardizing word. So you have to choose the right process and do right proper prioritization. You don't have to pick the biggest difficult process. You may have to start from the process which is easily automatable and then maybe go for a little more complex. So you may have to see what are the complexity process and what is the value of the process, and then pick the right process and then prioritize that. And go live, just we have to think that it is not just like go live and done. It has to have a proper mechanism to monitor the metrics and then tuning for the tuning and any enhancements required as well. So that ends with our RPA implementation steps and the flow.